Hey, everybody, and welcome into Under the Helmet. I'll be your host, Josh Van Dusen, and today we've got Zach Jaggers with us, a longtime firefighter, and I'm going to bring Zach in and let him tell a little bit about himself. Hey, Zach,
Hey, how are you, Josh?
doing great, man. Glad to
Good,
have you
good.
on. I appreciate you coming in.
Hey, absolutely. I'm happy to be here. I am Zach Jaggers. I'm a lieutenant for Cleveland Fire Department in Cleveland, Tennessee. Been with the city for a little over 18 years. Also a paramedic, work part-time for Bradley County EMS. I am a member of our peer support team, the medical coordinator for the department, among other things. So, just love doing it, man. Been waking up every day for the last 18 plus years, looking forward to going to work.
Oh, absolutely, man. Well, thank you, Zach. I appreciate that. Zach brings to us a kind of a unique perspective as we're diving into our third episode of Under the Helmet, and everybody's kind of learning that we discuss first responder mental health and some creative, positive ways to deal with the things that we see and involve ourselves in on a daily basis in our job. Uh, there is a law in Tennessee that was placed into effect as a result of an event that happened in Zach's fire department, and I'm just going to kind of we'll dive into that a little bit today. I guess first off, Zach, will you just kind of tell us the story about your friend and your coworker Dustin Samples?
Yeah, absolutely. Dustin's my brother. I actually have Dustin's helmet shield tattooed right there on my forearm. 303. You may have heard of the 303 project. That's how a lot of this stuff got launched. So
Right.
Dustin, Captain Samples, wanted to serve Cleveland since he knew anything about it. He was a kid. Came to the police department when he was just 18 years old. At the time, you had to be 21 to work for the fire department. And so he went to PD, did a couple of years. When he turned 21, he transferred over to the fire department and never turned back. Ultimately, ended up serving for 22 years before he departed. Um, he was a fireman's fireman. I followed D into some places that I knew we shouldn't be. And I always felt safe because I knew he was with us and he wasn't going to let anything happen. He was the loudest laugh, the sharpest pat on the back. He'd look you square in the face and say, "Love you, brother," and give you a big old bear hug, and you know that he meant it. Um,
Right.
he was one of my fire academy instructors when I was brand new, and he was the one that we all aspired to be. You wanted to be a fireman like Dustin. Everyone had this like intrinsic drive to just not let him down.
Yeah.
Obviously, it's about the citizens we serve, but also it's about each other. And D was the one that you wanted to be like. So,
Yeah.
you know,
Yeah. Does I had the great opportunity of being able to work around Dustin is he in his role as a captain and a firefighter he came in numerous calls and as a first responder on medical calls and stuff, so I had a great opportunity to work around him, and he was a very bright person, always had um, positive things and a positive outlook on everything that was going on, even in some of the darkest moments.
hmm
But Dustin was dealing with a lot of things inside that nobody really knew about. And
absolutely.
let's. I know that it can be sensitive, but I want to put it out there because I feel like it's important that our listeners and our viewers kind of know a little bit about the background on it, on what happened. But Dustin took his own life as a result of some stress and I don't know if it was actually labeled PTSD or not, but
It was.
it was related to Dustin's job and his collected trauma that he had
Yeah.
collected over his 22 years of service. And,
It's one of those things, it's like you carry around a backpack, and every time you get a little bit of
mm-hmm,
trauma here or there, you toss a pebble in that backpack, and it's typically not one pebble that weighs the backpack down, but that one straw that breaks the camel's back, over time. Like I said, he served
mm-hmm,
for 22 years or so before he took his life in December of 2020. And before that, he was pretty open about it. I mean, as well as anybody, you get
right,
blackballed if you talk about feelings. You know, you're shut up and be a man, bottle it down inside, pour alcohol on it. I mean, these are all the things that we do, and we've got to do better as men. We owe it to ourselves, we owe it to our families, we owe it to the brothers to do better. And so, you know, Dustin decided he was going to do better. He was going to be better. He went and sought help professionally. He spent some time at the IAFF Center for Excellence, and when he came back, he was very open about it. And at this point, he was a captain within the department, so he had rose up through the ranks, you know, um,
Right.
and he used that position and that platform to try to reach all of us. Hey guys, if it can happen to me, it can happen to you. I mean, this guy, I watched this guy once on a fire. We pulled up on a house fire, and there was a police officer standing out front. He said he could hear someone screaming inside, and you know, we jumped off the truck and Dustin kicked in the front door, and a ball of flame rolled out and melted his Bork shields. And he and I and another guy went inside and made a search, no hand line. We should have been dead, you know, but we
Hmm.
followed Dustin right into the mouth of it because we knew that we would be safe when we were with him. You know,
Yeah.
he had this power. He was a leader before he was ever a formal leader. He was a leader in our department. And I mean, you just
Hmm.
follow him anywhere. How could you not, you know? And so to see
Right.
him stand up and say, hey guys, look, you know, it's okay to not be okay. That was really when the shift came.
Hmm.
And everybody thought, okay, wait, if, you know, if he's allowed to have feelings, then maybe, maybe I am normal for feeling this way. Maybe it is okay for me to talk about it and try to get some help. So really,
Right.
what became the James Dustin Samples Act was spearheaded by Dustin himself while he was still with us, you know?
Right. Yeah. So tell me a little bit about this, the Dustin Samples Act, kind of how it started, and what the push was to, and where it ultimately ended up at.
Well, so the the Dustin Samples Act basically places the burden of proof in a nutshell on the department to prove
Hmm.
that the PTSD diagnosis was not a result of, you know, on the job things. Where it used to
Hmm.
be, you know, if you had a PTSD diagnosis and you wanted to get some help, workers' comp, things like that, the burden of proof was on the fireman to say, hey, look, you know, this is from a collective, this is collective trauma over decades of serving the citizens and the city and all this kind of stuff. Um,
Uh-huh.
and so we recognized how difficult it was to get help for first responders. There's first off, you know, like I said, the burden of proof on the responder. Also, mental health challenges have always come with a certain stigma.
Mm.
And so we were trying to break that and show, hey, you know, you got to take, you can't pour from an empty cup, you know? And
Yeah.
so that's kind of how it got started. What the law is, what it says is basically there are certain eligibility requirements that have to be met. So in Tennessee, you have to be a full-time career fireman. You have to respond to certain traumatic incidents. You have to be diagnosed with PTSD within 1 year of leaving the fire service. And then you have to report that diagnosis to the fire department within 15 days of receiving the diagnosis. So those are the
Hmm.
stipulations behind the law. And then ultimately, if you meet all of the requirements, the law says it's presumed now that the PTSD is work related, and then the burden of proof is
Right.
shifted to the fire department, to your employer.
Yeah.
So at that point, you know, fire departments provide mental health awareness and resiliency training to their firefighters, and then they can apply for grants. Those grants are available to help cover workers' comp claims or workers' comp costs for PTSD claims, rather. So, you
Right.
know, this helps promote mental health awareness in the fire service. It improves access to the benefits, and it also reduces the overall employer costs associated with mitigating PTSD that we see running as rampantly in the fire service as you do in the military anymore,
Right.
you know?
Yeah.
So,
Absolutely. It's the statistics have gone through the roof.
oh yeah,
And do I believe that this is something new that we're just seeing so much more PTSD now? I don't believe it is. I believe we're recognizing it more now.
yeah, people are
I've
speaking
I've
up.
talked more in previous episodes about the stigmatism that's placed on being weak or being not able to handle the job if you
Yeah,
showed any type of emotion over these traumas that we deal with. But the truth of the matter is that now that stigmatism starting to be worn away. We're starting to see more and more cases pop up but these cases have always been there.
Absolutely.
These
We're just talking about it.
they've just yeah, they've not been acknowledged in the past because of we're supposed to be able to brush it off and walk on.
Yeah,
And
be a man, right?
um, yeah, absolutely. And I told a story. I'm going to just briefly bring it back up, but I told a story back. I started very, very young in the fire and EMS service. And Zach knows my older brother, which will be on in a future episode. But at 16 years old, I was a fire explorer, and I was working my first job at a fast food restaurant. And Pete came and picked me up from work. And as as we were coming back, returning, we found a hard working job. House was on fire, flames shooting out of the roof. Well, there ended up being a 4 month old baby girl inside that perished in that fire. And the mother arrived on scene, and I was 16 years old at the time, so I wasn't actively fighting fire. But she was headed straight into the active, process that were the operations that were going on. And I just grabbed her and I held her until my dad got there. And my dad had been a chaplain for years in the fire service. I pushed her into my dad's arms, and I went and sat on the tailboard of the truck and cried. But at
Yep.
16, I remember thinking that if the other guys see me doing this, they're going to think I'm a pansy.
Hmm.
And that was the stigmatism back then, that you could not show your emotions. You could not show that this stuff affected you. But what normal human being out there, other than firefighters, police officers, medics, and EMTs, and like, what normal human being is expected to be able to deal with something like that and not show anything on it?
Yeah, well, and the
And
average person might experience what, one or two traumas in their entire life, if they're unfortunate.
yep,
And you might get two or three before lunchtime on any given shift. And you
absolutely.
just, like I said earlier, you can't pour from an empty cup, and we have to recognize that we have to do better. We owe it to ourselves and to each other to do better and be better, or else we're in a tight spot.
Yeah. So I think we're leaps and bounds from where we were 25 years ago,
Oh, for sure.
and the the Dust and Samples Act in Tennessee giving the presumptive PTSD diagnosis as being a work related injury is huge for us. It's
Big one.
enormous, and it breaks my heart that it had to happen that way, and that Dustin lost his life. But in the long run, this is enormous for the entire fire service in Tennessee. It's enormous,
For
and
sure.
I hope one day that it'll expand to EMS and expand to law enforcement, and I think it's coming. I really do. I think it's coming. There just needs to be a push in that direction more. It's legislation, and it's not easily changed.
Yeah.
So, but so
We're on the right track,
what?
though.
Yes, absolutely. What changes have you seen in your own department as a result of this law change, as far as operation and procedures, and as far as your like SOGs and stuff like that? What have you seen take place in your own department as a result of this law passing?
Well, so first off, a lot of guys are a lot more open about it than they ever were. It's
Hmm.
not that whole shut up and be a man, and we don't talk about our feelings. That's not manly. That's not how we are. Quite the opposite of that. A lot of guys check on each other pretty regularly. Um,
Right.
I had two guys checked on me this week, and I don't even really have anything going on. It was just, hey, man, you seemed a little quiet in training the other day. Everything okay? And it just that sort of thing. I recognize that brotherhood means everything, and we take that to another level now. It's not a secret how much more likely a department is to experience a suicide after they've experienced one. I think it's 700%, 7 times more likely. And so, we really hammer that into everybody. Hey, guys, it's okay to not be okay. If you're
Hmm.
not okay, you're with the majority. But we have to stick together. We have to help each other through these times because that brotherhood extends far beyond the fire ground. Um, and
Right.
so a lot of guys are a lot more open discussing those mental health challenges and things like that, checking up on each other instead of hiring them. We've built that culture, and I'm very proud of the way that the Cleveland Fire Department has built that culture. We have a very robust peer support program. I would compare it to anybody's peer support program in the country, honestly.
Which you
We've
didn't
got
have before this, correct?
no,
Yeah,
no,
there
this
was
is
no
a
peer
relatively new
support in
thing.
place.
Yeah, well, I mean, it's, who knew, right?
Right,
Um,
absolutely.
and so we're taking the initiative has been not just for fitness, but for overall wellness. And so, we've implemented fitness standards, but now we're also
Hmm.
implementing wellness standards, health, mental health, physical health. All of these things are tied together.
Awesome.
So that way we have well-rounded overall firefighters who are prepared to respond and respond appropriately on your worst day. As far as departmental SOGs, um, we've taken and gotten some pretty good things put in place with human resources.
Hmm.
As far as getting FMLA involved, we don't have to, if you call up the peer support team and say, hey, I need help, that could be anything from a telephone call to, hey, we're putting you in a car right now and driving you to Maryland. You don't have to worry about a paycheck. You don't have to worry about your time. You don't have to worry about signing anything, filling out the right paperwork with HR to get that FMLA started. The peer support team has the authority to do all of those things on your behalf. And
Yeah,
it's a really good thing.
that's awesome. That's great. So there's been some promotions and things changed in your department. I'm not sure how much you have to do with training anymore, Zach, but do they start addressing this in the academy when new firefighters come in on board and maybe hit this from the front end?
We do. So,
Good.
you know, from the time the academy begins, we put on a 16-week academy, and our
Hmm.
cadets are exposed to every aspect of the wellness. We'll have members of peer support come in and talk to them about the program. We discuss the employee assistance program, and then specifically the fire department's, peer support. We give everybody a list of names and contact information for members on there. And so it's really we do our best to ingrain that, I guess, in Cleveland firemen from the very get-go. And then even periodically, we do some peer support classes departmentally, not just for the peer support team, but for the entire department. Just,
Yeah.
hey, as a reminder, this is what you've got going on. Here's who was on the team.
Hmm.
And as time has passed, you know, it's become important for us to make sure that we're keeping um, fresh faces on the peer support team, gathering, some members who are like-minded and whose hearts are in that place from the younger members of our ranks.
Right.
Because like you said, as promotions happen, you've got a guy who was a fireman when the peer support team was created. And then all of a sudden, he's made a couple of jumps, and now he's wearing a red helmet. And maybe some of these younger firemen don't feel like he's as approachable because he's a superior or something like that. And
Right.
so, we really try to do our best to make sure that we've got a variety of contacts on that list. So that way, there's everyone in the department has someone with whom they are comfortable that they can call and say, "Hey, man, I'm having a hard time." You know what I mean?
Yeah, that's awesome. I'm glad to hear that. I'm glad to see that progressing in that city and town. That's amazing. So tell me, Zach, what are some personal changes you think you've made since this law came into effect that help guard you against this compounded traumas that we deal with?
Well, I recognize that I have to show up for my family first.
Yeah.
I'm a husband, I'm a father, I'm a son, and these
Hmm.
people in my life, I'm very fortunate to have a very close relationship with my family, and so I do my very best to guard them from all of this stuff. It's frustrating to my wife because she wants to be there and wants to hear it and all that kind of stuff as a supportive
Yeah.
person, but then me being the protector, I trying to guard her from that the
Yeah.
same way she's trying to protect me from it. So
Yep.
our code word, if,
Yep.
if there's something that I don't want to talk about that happened at work when she asks me how was work, I'll just say, nothing to write home about. And that kind of means, hey, but we're not going
Yeah.
to talk about it. And so I
Right.
do my very best to decompress a little bit. Nobody teaches you as a first responder how to turn it off when you walk through the front door, and then you come home and you're
Right.
agitated and you're bothered by little things. Oh, the pillows aren't in the right place on the couch or whatever. And even
Yeah.
though your frustrations are directed toward your family, it's not because they did anything wrong. It's because they're just present and nobody taught you how to turn that off before you walked through the
Right.
door, you know? And so
Yep.
a lot of times after shift, I'll put on a little reggae music in the truck or something lighthearted and, just happy, positive, and I'll drive home that way. And a lot of times I'll sit out in the driveway for a few minutes and kind of collect myself and take that breath before I walk inside. And
Hmm.
that way I can be fully present for my family. I try to have healthy habits and healthy outlets. I spend a lot of time in the gym. Picking up heavy
Right.
circles and putting them down several days a week helps my brain.
I
Spend
never
a lot
knew
of
that about you, Zach.
yeah, hi, funny man. But it's
Yeah.
a great rush. You get that release, that dopamine hit, those endorphins, and also I recognize that it's pain that I can control. Kind of similar
Right.
to the tattoo journey. That's pain that I can control. And
Right.
I believe in choosing my own pain and choosing my hard when I can. And so those are some of the
Hmm.
things that I do. I spend a lot of time on my motorcycle. Spend a whole
Hmm.
lot of time with my family, just having healthier outlets than some of the things, taking some of the unnecessary risks and things that we're all so well known for doing. Um,
Right.
Kind of helps keep me grounded. Um,
Hmm.
but you have to make time for those healthy outlets and those healthy hobbies, and recognize that moderation is okay. But as a fire service as a whole, we try to manage a lot of things by pouring booze on it. Um,
Yeah.
and that's tough. I'm not going to get on a soapbox and tell you. I mean, I had
Right.
a couple of beers yesterday. But moderation is the key. You know,
Yep.
there are alcohol's involved in a lot of the things that we're talking about. And I'm just as guilty as the next guy about it. I can't tell you how many times over the years I stood in Dustin's driveway drinking beer with him.
Yeah.
And I mean, we've all done it, but we've got to be better.
Well, and this is something that I've brought up many times in this podcast, but there's a difference between release and suppression. When
Yes.
when that release where you could have a couple of beers in a driveway with a friend, when it becomes those 24 beers that cover
Hmm.
up, when it comes to suppressing all this stuff, that's when we really start to see an issue in this because
Oh yeah.
we're not releasing this. We're not letting it go. We're not purging a valve, and then that those rocks in that backpack will keep piling up.
Guaranteed.
So it's a fine line to travel, but that's if you have friends and coworkers that can help recognize these things and say, "Hey, man, you might be drinking a little bit too much." And I think that's our responsibilities as brothers is to
Oh
be able
yeah.
to go to our brother and say, "Hey, bud, like you're having 15 beers a night. Let's
Yeah.
sit down and talk." You know,
Absolutely. There's a
and
lot to be said for accountability, and historically we've just kind of turned a blind eye to it, or you get
yeah,
the police out here will pull you over, and you've had one too many, and they let you go as a professional courtesy, and I mean, we're enabling each other, and we have to hold each other to a higher standard. We have to hold each
right,
other accountable. We have to be able to have those hard conversations with one another because that's what love is. I love my
absolutely,
brother. I am my brother's keeper. And
yep,
I would expect the same, from my brothers. If I were the one who were, having these behaviors starting to show, I'd expect someone to jerk me to the side and be like, "Hey, man, this is not okay."
yep, yep. So Zach, and I can't remember if in 2020 if you had gotten your promotion or not, but making the transition to now you're a rig officer. What can you say that you do to help look out for your crew? Because yes, we're all brothers in the department, and everything, but there's nothing that your crew that rides that rig with you every day. That's a little tighter bond. What do you do as the leader of that group to look out for your crew as far as mental health and dealing with these traumas?
Well, so when Dustin departed, I was still the engineer on our heavy
Mm-hmm.
rescue company. Um,
Right.
and he left in December 2020, and I was promoted to lieutenant in January 2021. Um,
Okay.
he had been the captain for Engine Company 5. Um, But for a long time before that, he was a lieutenant on Engine Company 3, and that's where I promoted to the spot on Engine Company 3. So
Right.
that really hit home for me, especially
Yeah.
personally, especially after being just a month or so after he left. Um,
Yeah.
as an officer, a mentor and friend told me long before I promoted that the red helmet's a lot heavier than the black one. And
Yeah.
he's absolutely right. All of a sudden, I've got a whole lot more people to worry about. I've got my guys, I've got their families, and it's an honor. It truly is an honor and a privilege to serve in that role. But it's definitely a heavier hat. So I always, I feel like without getting on a religious high horse or anything like that. I've always considered this job to be how I wash the world's feet, and I am my brother's keeper. So I mean, if you look at
Hmm.
Proverbs 27:17 says, "Just as iron sharpens iron, so one man sharpens another." And so we really
Hmm.
take that to heart here. Personally, I strive to be a servant leader. I try to lead from the front. I tell my guys the first day anybody's with me, I will put you in harm's way, 100% guaranteed I will put you in danger, but I'll
Hmm.
be right beside you. I'll be right beside you. I'll be in front of you. I'll be wherever I can be, but you won't be there alone. And so
Right.
it starts in the firehouse to cultivate that trust. They see you, that you show up, you continue to show up, you do what you say,
Hmm.
and you keep showing up for your men, and you have to put them first. So it's really important to cultivate those personal relationships on the rig, not just from the standpoint of, hey, I'm your company officer, but also I'm your friend, I'm your brother. And knowing your guys makes it easier for you to tell when something's a little bit off. Having
Hmm.
developed the trust, having established that rapport, these guys know that they can pick up the phone at 3 o'clock in the morning and call me, say, "Hey, boss, I'm in a tight spot," and I will be there.
Absolutely.
And that's
Yep.
something that you have to earn. It's rented, not bought, so to say. And the rent's due
Right.
every single day, every single shift. You have to earn that.
Hmm.
So I try to lead from the front. I try to encourage healthy habits. We all get in the gym and lift together every single shift, no exceptions. We try to keep things light because as we keep things light, it helps build that trust when things get heavy. You know, a lot of praise
Right.
publicly, and they have to know that when you say you've got their back, it's more than just lip service.
Right.
um, so
Yep.
servant leadership, I would say in a nutshell, is the biggest thing for me.
Right. I like that. I like that attitude. And I think it builds a strong rapport and relationship with your subordinates so that they don't feel necessarily like subordinates. They feel like team members. And
Exactly,
I
exactly.
think that's huge when you talk about someone trusting someone enough to say having problems because
Yeah,
that takes a lot, man. It took a lot for me to finally say I'm having issues. You know,
yeah.
I've got something I've got to deal with, and it takes a lot, and it breaks you down internally. And
Absolutely. Well, it's my goal as a
but
company officer is to develop a company where if we jump off the rig and nobody's wearing any sort of identifiers, nobody can tell who's in charge because everybody's doing the
right.
job so well. Everybody can do the job so well. Everybody's holding each other accountable. And
Hmm.
and that extends far beyond an emergency scene. That's in the firehouse, that's out of the firehouse. Um, I trust my junior tailboard man to call me out if it's necessary, and I guarantee you 100% that he would. Right now, he would. And
Right.
that's the culture that we're trying to keep.
Yeah. That's awesome. So let's talk a little bit more about the peer support team. I know you're involved in it. Tell me kind of
Mhm.
how yours is structured. As far as like what do you have somebody that's kind of over it, or do you have a team approach, or let's just talk a little bit about your peer support team and how it functions.
So anonymity in the peer support team is key. If
Right.
nobody knows what we're doing, it means that we're doing our job well. So we
Hmm.
do have we do have one overall coordinator who kind of is
Hmm.
like has the master list, has the phone numbers. We need to get you in touch with these people or those people.
Hmm.
But we have several names, several members on the peer support team, and so you as a fireman recognize that. hey, I'm having a problem. I'd like to talk to somebody about it. You can contact anyone on that list, and anyone on that list can get you the resources that you need, and it's totally anonymous. Now, there may be, I may ask you, hey, Josh, is it okay if I involve so and so on this? The lead of the peer support team, because he's going to have more answers than I do. I'm going to be essentially your handler since you reached out to me. I'm going to be there with you every step of the way. But
Right.
maybe this other guy's got a little bit better information, and it would be easier if we involved him in the conversation instead of me being the middleman and just bouncing back and forth. Now, if
Right.
you're okay with him knowing your name, knowing your situation, whatever, then that's great. We bring him into the conversation. And if you say, hey, I'd really rather keep this just between us, that's fine too. I can still go to the
Hmm.
same coordinator and say, hey, we've got a brother who's in a tight spot, needing some help. I was hoping that you could put me in contact with the right people. And so they may be making phone calls and arranging a bed, getting somebody to talk as far as a counselor goes, all the way up to getting you a bed in Maryland and not have any idea who you are. So
Right.
it's completely anonymous. We take care of the scheduling. At some point, your battalion chief is going to have to know, hey, Josh is going to be out for an extended period of time. Um, it is what it is, no questions about it. We put you down as sick time. We'll worry about all that stuff later, right? So I'll say, hey, Josh, let's go home. Let's pack a bag. We're going to get you where you need to go. I'm going to jump in the truck and drive you there personally myself. I'm going to put down training time or something on the schedule for me. That way it doesn't cut into my accrued time either. The department's 100% backing everything that the peer support team does to make sure our guys
Good.
get taken care of and nobody takes a hit. So once all that's
Good.
taken care of, the peer support team makes the notification to HR. Hey, we need to take care of so and so for FMLA purposes. We can make the signatures, we can fill out all the paperwork. That way, all you have to worry about is go home and pack your bag. Let's get you to Maryland and let's get you the help that you need. And however long that takes is how long that takes. You're going to be getting a paycheck that's going to hit every 28 days, the same as it ever did. You're going to have a position when you come back. And there's just no questions about it. So,
That's
after
great.
having spoken to a few of our guys who have been to Maryland, it's become pretty obvious that we are in the minority of departments nationally who operate that way. There are guys who have gone to that center and received a phone call on Tuesday to say, hey, I know you're working through some stuff, but if you're not back on the truck on Friday, you better find another job. And
Yeah.
that's wild to me. Or guys telling the department that they're having to go have surgery or something just so that they can hide where they're actually going, but be approved to
Yeah.
take off, multiple weeks at a time. Um, it shouldn't be that way. And so we're really trying to
Yeah.
lead from the front in this.
Yeah. It's still that's part of wearing away from this stigmatism. I watched an interview with a firefighter, well, his wife, and he was suffering from PTSD, and his department told him, said, "You've got 6 months to get over this and either retire or be fired."
Yeah,
And so if you don't get over this, then you need to retire or be fired. That's
like a
a
broken wrist. Yeah.
that's yeah, and this guy had been on the job for 25 years. I mean,
Mhm.
that's 25 years means something to us.
Yeah.
That's a lot. That's a big portion of your life that you've given to this department, into this community, and just to be punched in the nose to say you got 6 months to get over it.
Yeah. That's
And that, but
bullshit.
that was that was the old mentality and stuff. So I'm glad to see that we're finally starting to wear away from that and acknowledge these things, and start to treat some of this, and have our departments and our governmental entities and stuff stand behind our guys and say, hey, we're going to support you in this journey. We're going to get you through this, and we're going to get you well, or we're going to take care of you.
Yeah,
So
absolutely.
that's a huge step for us. Huge step. So, what are your visions for your peer support group in the future? Do you have any larger aspirations as far as expanding things, or what? Just kind of tell me a little bit about where you would like to see that go.
Well, so I'm really happy with where we are. Honestly,
Uh,
I think that we're in a really good spot. We've been working hard for a number of years to get to the spot where we are, and I think that we're doing things well. I also recognize that there's always room for improvement. You know, it's dangerous to rest on your laurels for too long. So,
Right.
like I mentioned earlier, I think it's important that we get some younger blood into the ranks of the peer support team because, who we had as younger blood 5 years ago, now they're 5-year guys. And some of these guys may be
Right.
looking at promoting, into engineer roles in the near future. And then those engineers we had 5 years ago may be promoting into lieutenant roles and so on and so on. And so,
Hmm.
even though even though my heart hasn't changed uh,
Right.
to some of these brand new guys, as you know, you mentioned earlier training. You weren't sure how involved I still am in training. I'm still very
Hmm.
involved. I'm
Good.
one of the academy instructors. I'm the medical coordinator for the department, so I take care of all the medical training, in addition to a bunch of the stuff for the academy, vehicle extrication, things like that. And so,
Right.
as wearing a black helmet and you're just one of the boys and you're approachable, they'll come over to you and say, "Hey, man, let's talk about this." But when these younger guys come in and they're meeting you as an authority figure, they're meeting you as Lieutenant Jaggers, you're the one standing at the front of the classroom administering the tests and all that kind of stuff.
Hmm.
You're automatically less approachable just by your title.
Right.
And again, these guys who know me know that I'm incredibly approachable. I'll move mountains for you at 3 in the morning. Just call me because my texts don't wake me up. But I will be
Hmm.
there, and I've shown up time and time again, and I always will. But
Right.
when you're an 18-year veteran and you're explaining that to a 20-year-old kid with 2 weeks on the job, I can see how that might be a little intimidating and how he might be
Right.
less likely to pick up the phone and call and say, "Hey, LT, I'm in a tight spot." And so, as we continue to age, it's going to be important to make sure that we've got some contact folks that are able to be approachable by the younger generations too. We're also
Yeah.
currently working on putting some stuff down on paper. We've got a lot of great things that we're doing, but we kind of operate in a gray area, so to speak,
Hmm.
with some of the HR stuff and some of the sick leave and all that. And so we're actively in the process now of writing wellness SOPs to go along with the health, SOPs, so that we've got kind of a multifaceted approach to health and wellness, and that's going to ensure a place for the peer support team as the department grows and as time passes.
Right. Excellent. That's good to hear because then it puts it in black and white, and then there's no
Exactly.
question, and there's no backing out on the other end of it. And I think that it will, by putting it in SOPs and SOGs, that it also kind of solidifies you for funding, and which we all know that no matter what you do, it takes money to run it.
Hmm.
And speaking of that, there's been I've seen some social media posts and stuff where your peer support groups are doing activities together. You're going out and you're going, bowling, or you're having a cookout, or you're doing something together as a group. Kind of tell me what your methodology is behind that. I mean, I kind of know, and most of us will know, but just for somebody that might be popping in and doesn't understand a peer support group, why would you do something off duty together like this?
Well, we're all human and we have similar interests, we have similar likes. I mentioned earlier that I try really hard not to bring work home with me. And one of the
Hmm.
ways that I do that is by having these healthy outlets and by having these healthy things that I do outside of work, activities, get on the motorcycle, get on a mountain bike, go for a hike, get out in the sun. It's proven that
Hmm.
sunlight helps with these things. And so, being a brother doesn't just mean I've got your back when we're on a hose line. Being a brother means that I have a vested interest in your overall well-being as a man, as a father, as a brother, as a, son. I have an overall interest in your life. And so if we can help each other, maybe I've got some healthy habits that somebody else doesn't even know exists. Hey man, why are you always
Hmm.
whistling when you come into the station? What are you doing that I'm not doing? And if your idea
Right.
of taking care of yourself is holding up a bar stool, and maybe I could show you a better way. Maybe you could show me a better way, you know? And
Yeah.
so getting people out and, if all of us were doing everything correctly, we wouldn't need a peer support team. We wouldn't
Right.
need an IAFF Center for Excellence. We wouldn't need a James Dustin Samples Act because we would
Mm-hmm.
all be making sure that our cups were filled properly. But that's
Yeah.
not human nature. And so
Mm-hmm.
we got to help each other out everywhere we can. We've actually discussed, talking about savings, talking about finances, doing some classes for the spouses outside the fire hall. Here's what you can expect.
Yeah.
And so our approach to peer support is multifaceted because we want overall wellness for a lifetime. Not just when you're on
Right.
shift every third day.
Yeah. Yeah. Absolutely. And I think also that sitting around a barbecue grill and breaking bread with Zach Jaggers brings a lot to a element of trust than when we're standing on a scene with Lieutenant Jaggers.
Exactly.
And so I'm going to be more likely as a firefighter or as a paramedic or whatever to open up to somebody that I know personally and not just on the job. So, bringing in that element of trust, doing these activities together. The department where I'm at, we've got. I mean, it's a large department, but we've got sports teams. We've got basketball teams and softball teams and
Hmm.
kickball teams and or whatever. We've got all these different activities. They take groups hiking. They bring them all the way over here and send them down the Ocoee River. Whitewater
Hmm.
rafting. Do activities together because it creates a personal bond between those people and it builds a bridge of trust in them so that
Absolutely.
you're a lot more likely to open up and to reveal something to somebody that you trust for sure
Yeah.
than just another stranger. There's times that we need that anonymity and that we need that stranger to be able to say to reach out to, but there's other times that the more I get to know Zach Jaggers, the more I'm going to know when something's wrong, when something's
Exactly.
not normal. So I think these bonding experiences through our peer support group are just invaluable, just
Yeah. Agree.
really invaluable to us. Um, well, I'll give you one more question here, and then we'll get towards wrapping up. But I had an interest in Zach when you're on your shift and everything. I know that these recruits will come through. They'll finish the academy, and then you'll get a new recruit on your truck. What do you do right off the top end to kind of to start to build that relationship with them and as a new recruit, kind of bring them into your fold and be concerned right off the top about their mental well being?
Well, I find myself in a unique position because I am one of the academy instructors. And so I
Right.
don't get a fresh-faced stranger on my truck when I get one. I've typically
Mm-hmm.
been involved with them for several weeks of the process. So I may not know you on a first name basis. I may not know who your mama is and things like that, but I kind of have an idea because, you get to, as an instructor, you get to be part of that bond building process for those cadets who are building bonds with each other, but they're also learning, some of the other members of the departments who are directly involved in their training. And so we're having
Right.
conversations, and not all of those conversations are about the book or about the technical skills that we do on the training ground at the training center or anything like that. I mean, you kind of get to know them a little bit in that process. And so by the time I get a rookie firefighter on my truck, I kind of have an idea of who they are. So, I'll pull
Right.
you into my office and we'll make some introductions. I'll ask them to tell me a little bit about themselves. Super informal. I always get telephone numbers, addresses, contact information, for them, and also for someone that I could contact on their behalf if I needed to. Some of the older guys, that might be a spouse or a girlfriend. Some of the younger guys, it might be their mama.
Right.
But I make sure that every member of my crew has that list for every other member on the crew. If there's a tornado, we can get to each other because we know where the address is. If the phones don't work, if there's an issue and there's been an accident or some kind of an incident on the truck, we know who we can contact to make sure that they've got someone coming besides us. You know what I mean? And so I tell them a little bit about myself, about my background. We keep it light, keep it super informal. Um, And it really starts, the bond starts at day one. I let them know. First off, I'm one of those direct communicators, for better or for worse. Love it or hate it, you
Mm-hmm.
always know where you stand with me. Um, and so there's never any ambiguity in anything that I say. Like I said, for better or for worse. But I let these guys know on no uncertain terms. Hey, look, we are a team. You are a part of our team from day one. I'll stand on the carpet in the office at the end of the hallway for you. Don't make me be your officer. If you make me be
Right.
your officer, I'm going to win. So I've always kind of considered
Mm-hmm.
myself, you talk about bowling as an example. It's a great example. The bumpers, when you're a child, you put the bumpers down in the gutters. Uh,
Right.
that's my job. If the ball, being you, is in the middle of the lane and you're going straight toward the pins, I'm right here beside you the whole way. I'll be right beside you every step of the way. And if you start to move off course a little bit, I'm there to nudge you gently back over into the lane where you're supposed to be. Now, if you take
Mm-hmm.
a hard left or a hard right, I'm going to be there to beat you like a brick wall. But it's my job to be right there beside you to get you to the finish line as safely and as efficiently as possible. So, like I told you earlier, I let them know, yes, you will be in danger. Yes, I will put you in harm's way, but you can believe that I will be right there beside you the whole time. You're never going to be facing it alone. And we developed that trust from day one. We're very active training every shift, Saturday, Sunday, cold, hot, wet, dry. We're training. Um,
Mm-hmm.
and training doesn't just mean videos. We're pulling hose lines on a Saturday. We're throwing ladders on a Sunday. We're doing PT. We're hitting the gym every single shift. Doesn't matter if it's Christmas, your birthday, Jesus' birthday, whatever. We're doing the things that we need to do because
Right.
I don't believe that you can train enough for a job that's trying to kill you every time you do it. Um, you know,
Absolutely.
and so that helps set the tone. It helps set the standard. Everyone on the truck recognizes the standard and they meet the standard, whether I'm there or not, because they
Mm-hmm.
hold themselves to the same standard that I hold them to. They see me holding myself to the same standard as well. And so as a result of that, you know, it's amazing what happens when you have that cohesiveness as a team. Um, you know,
Right.
Nothing makes me happier than having a vacation day and showing up at the gym on my day off and I see my truck there because my boys are there getting it. It makes
Right.
me so incredibly proud the way that they do, the way that they operate, whether I'm there or not, you know.
Yeah.
Um, and that's the culture that we're trying to develop. I want a truck where, if we jump off the truck and we're not in our uniforms or we're not wearing our helmets, I mean, you can't tell which one's in charge because everybody's operating at the same level. And it's
Mm-hmm.
beautiful when it happens, man.
That's great, man. Well, Zach, before we wrap up, is there anything else that you'd like to add that we haven't discussed today, or anything like that?
I'll be honest with you, Josh. I can't think of anything, and as soon as we sign off, I'll probably have
Okay.
10 things I'd love to say. But I appreciate you
Yeah.
having me on. I love what you're doing.
Well, thanks,
It's
brother.
good, and this may be one of those things that reaches somebody that nothing else would. They can sit in
Oh,
the
that's my
comfort of
hope.
their, yeah. And
Yeah.
it takes all these different things. It's just one more part of a multifaceted approach to overall wellness. And my hats off to you, brother. I hope it explodes.
Thank you, man. I appreciate that. You guys, if you have any questions you'd like to ask Zach, please shoot me an email underthehelmettn@gmail.com. I can pass them along to Zach, get the answer to your questions, and we'll email you back or we'll address it on a future episode. If you guys would like to see Zach come back on another episode, talk about a different topic, we'd be happy to see if we can get that arranged too. You guys, if you have some issues, please reach out. You can grab me on social media. I promise you, I will get back to you. Shoot me an email, call me on social media, reach out to me. I've got plenty of resources that I can get you in contact with you. And listen, we love you. We need you well. Your communities need you well. And we've got a job to do, and we need you functional to do that job. So please
Amen.
reach out. Zach, thank you so much for joining us today. Thank you for all the information and input that you've given us. Brother, stay safe out there. Y'all have a great
Thanks
day.
for having
This is
me.
Under the
God
Helmet.
bless.
I'm your host, Josh Van Duzen. See you, Zach.
See ya.
your cold.